Howdy, boys. Why are you so surprised to see me? I told you I'd be back in 6 months. Yeah, I got what I needed. I can be happy again. Yeah, I left here on that fine Arabian that I paid more money for than anybody could afford. And it cost me so much that I gotta be careful with my money for the rest of my life, but I can be happy now. What'd I go to get? Where'd I go? I went to Missouri. Where's the Arabian? Dying? Trade it for a mule. They make the best mules in Missouri. Missouri was the only place I could go to get the mule I had to have to walk around this town and still be happy. It's a Messiah mule. Yeah, I'll go outside and look at it. Yeah. That's not a big mule. He can't pull no load. He ain't no good for any work that's left to do around here. A Messiah mule, it's about the littlest mule that can carry a pack. But if you got a light pack and a man that loves him, and all he has to have is a halter to lead him, and they're both going to walk as far as they can walk, and all that mule's got to do is carry 50 pounds to do what he wants to do, the thing he loves most, that's the only mule that can do it. I told you I had to live in this town and walk around and see how big it was after I did the hardest thing I could do to make the money I needed to walk around and be happy. And I had to think about when was the last time that much gold was worth that much money. After gold was discovered and all the cutthroats were willing to kill for it, and it was worth the most, it had to go the farthest, and there was the most cutthroats, and all I had to do was stay awake. That if I could do the one thing that was needed most without getting killed, I'd be happy. Because the first thing that happens when gold is discovered is that somebody finds out there's gold, and they figure out how to find a lot of it and get it somewhere safe. And that's when gold's valuable, and that's when you'll do the most killing to get the most you can. Right then, just before it's discovered, when it's just a guy that's curious if it's there and he finds out, and he don't mean no harm, but he lets you know there's gold in them thar hills. That's what starts the gold rush. That's what starts the murder and mayhem. But that guy's innocent. He's just curious. All he wants to do is find out if there could possibly be gold in these hard mountains of Colorado that is important enough that it's like you found gold in California when it was easy. The gold in California was gone. The easy gold was gone almost before anybody got there. If you weren't in California right when it happened and you weren't willing to trespass to get it, go where you weren't supposed to be, by the time you got there and had to work hard for it, you had to work hard. It almost wasn't worth the work you had to do in California for the distance you covered. California was over when the easy gold was over. And that happened too fast for any murder and mayhem to happen until there was a lot of gold in a lot of places. And you had to be a hell of an outlaw to steal it. But the hardest time to deliver a lot of gold was right before the bottom falls out, right before it's worth nothing. Right then is when there's going to be the most people want to kill you. And I did it. What if I was the last man that could deliver that much gold and not get killed? And that made me happy to walk around and see how big this town was. If there was no evil, what could happen? But once them people died just because I needed 8 hours of sleep, and that was the only thing, that if I had been a young man, I could have done it as fast as it could be done. I could just walk through any kind of weather, day and night. Didn't need nothing but a backpack with the medicine and a flashlight to see by. Didn't need to change socks, didn't need to rest, didn't need food. I could have done that when I was 30. no matter how bad it was. I wouldn't have died. I'd have got there, no matter how bad it was. I'd just walk straight through. But since I was 83 years old, I had to have sleep. Not many people died. Yep. I could do whatever needed to be done if there was no evil man to stop me. And I could walk around this town and say, when the time came when nobody was willing to kill for it, how big would it be if I had been the last one? And that made me happy. But after I done all I could do and that many people died just because I was old, I wasn't happy no more. I had to figure out, what if I was a guy who was just curious? What if I didn't want to make money? What if I didn't want to make money at all? What if I was just curious and wanted to find out what was there and didn't want to do no harm? And the only people that were going to kill me would be some Native Americans that just happened to be in the area, and there weren't many. And they wanted to kill a white man, and the white man had done so much harm, he had it coming. The only thing that would have stopped him, other than nature, would be if he accidentally come across a tribe of Indians that wanted to kill him. And he's willing to take that risk. And the guy that discovered gold in Colorado had a mule just like that. And he loaded a couple of packs, and he went to an assayer's office, and he said, there's gold in them Nar Hills. And then he just went and did something else. His curiosity was satisfied. He didn't want to do no harm. He was what you call an explorer. I want to know what it'd feel like to be that guy. So I went all the way to Missouri, and I traded the most expensive Arabian horse you can buy for the cheapest mule you can get in Missouri, and I come all the way back on foot. It's over 850 miles. I walked 850 miles with that mule just so I could feel that feeling. And I could be happy again. You think that's crazy? That I'm going to be skimping on food for the rest of my life and walking back and forth to my cabin 10 miles away and sleeping and eating and getting comfortable and reading my favorite books and coming back here, and all I had to have to do that was a Messiah mule that can't do nothing anymore, that anybody pays for, just a pet? I just want to hold that leash and have her walk behind me and tie her up and have her there when I'm ready to go home? I'd be happy? You think that's crazy? It ain't crazy if you want to know what it feels like to live in a world where there's no evil. Why, the thing that's bad about America and white people being here is that it was discovered by accident. Christopher Columbus thought he was in India when he first landed in America. The people couldn't tell him how to find the spices he wanted. He was looking for spices because food tastes bad without it, and your breath is bad without it. That's why spices were so valuable, because your food stunk if you didn't have it. That's how bad food stunk to eat back then. You had to eat rotten meat, and you had to make it smell good so you could stand it. And people were willing to pay more than they were willing to pay for gold just so their food wouldn't stink. It was rotten meat that brought him to here. Rotten meat was a problem. And what he found was people whose language he couldn't speak, and they couldn't take him to the spice. And he wrote back to the queen and said, they can't tell me where the spice is, but they're stupid, and they make good slaves. So even if you can't find spice, you can make a lot of money here because you can find slaves. And they didn't care how many of them died of disease. They didn't care how many Native Americans died. They just come to get the money. And if the Native Americans were the problem, they'd just kill them or put them on a reservation. It was the soldiers that did the dirty work. It was the soldiers that got paid the most to kill Native Americans. That was murder and mayhem. That was murder for hire. That was sin. That was darkness and evil. That was the wrong stuff. If you wanted anything in America that made money, and you didn't want to kill anybody for it, and all you had to worry was that somebody might kill you, if you want to be innocent, Well, you weren't the one that was killing the Native Americans or doing them any harm. All the traveling I done, all the hard things I done, if I run into any Native peoples, they didn't want to kill me. They needed to trade for something I had. When we got to Kansas, you didn't see Native Americans unless they were starving and they come a long way for food and they had a lot to trade for it. Stuff that wasn't valuable at the time, but if you held on to it long enough, why, there ain't no amount of money could buy that. You wouldn't believe how many buffalo skins we got with the stories that they would write to keep track. I mean, we knew that'd be valuable. We didn't know why. Buffalo hide wasn't valuable till it was time to kill the buffalo to get rid of the Indian. And then all it was valuable for was running factories. And the cavalry helped anybody get out here that would kill a buffalo because they had to get rid of the Indians, and they gave them ammunition for free. You showed up at any army fort with a rifle that they had a bullet that would fit, they would give you as many of them bullets as they could spare so you could go kill some buffalo. That was evil about the buffalo killers. That's what it took to get rid of the Native Americans. But once the Native Americans were gone and the buffalo were dead, and there's 100 of them left, and that 100 buffalo was how they brought the herd back. That's why there's so many buffalo today, because there's still 100 of them alive. And a lot of them was crossed with cattle. You can hardly find a pure-blooded buffalo. But a buffalo hide now, with the Native American inscription on it, before people were killing buffalo, why, my mom and dad went back to what used to be, what was then West Virginia, and the Civil War was over. They just wanted to buy the family farm back and pay somebody to run it. And they had so much money, they could buy that farm and hire anybody they wanted. And they had lots of them. They still got lots of them buffalo hides and arrowheads and stuff that people are starting to pay money for. They didn't have to kill nobody to do good. And it made me sick that what I was doing, people had to die for. And you had to murder people to get it. And once you got it, and you didn't want to kill nobody, you had to watch out for the killers. I had to come back to this town and know what it would take to find gold. And the only way to do that is to have that kind of mule and walk around miles and miles, years of your life, just walking around just because you want to know. And if you never find gold, you did what you wanted with your whole life, and all you had to have was enough to eat. Oh, I don't know if I'll ever be happy again. I don't mind telling the stories. But I can tell you this as close as I can ever be to being happy again. Because there was a lot of murder and mayhem to make this country. And the Native American folks is all on reservations, and they're suffering terrible. And I don't know if they'll ever get off the reservations, and they drink a lot of whiskey, and they suffer bad, and I'm sorry. I'd have never had nothing to do with any of that. I'd have never carried whiskey. That's one freight I wouldn't haul, no matter how much I got paid for it, because that poisons the Native Americans. I just wanted to know what it'd be like to live here if I could do no evil. And the only way to be innocent and to find gold in Colorado was to have that mule and spend your whole life looking for it just because you were curious. And if you didn't find it, and you could just find enough food to live off of, you died happy. That's how hard it is to be happy in the world where there's evil, boys. And that long trek that I made, it was springtime before I could talk about that. And this is the third spring since then. And I'm finally back in this town, and I got a chance of being happy. That's what it takes. That's how hard it is to be at peace, just a little peace, in a world where there's evil, where people choose evil. I don't understand why people choose evil. I just know how hard you got to work to be evil. Anybody that wanted gold bad enough to do that much work to find it, why, they'd have had to murder a whole lot of Native Americans. They'd have had to enslave a lot of people. They'd have had to done horrible things just to get a backpack full of gold and take it as far as you could take it, and what little they paid for you when it was worth a lot. You had a little bit of it, and pay you a lot for it, and that wouldn't take you very far. All you'd want to do with the rest of your life was just stay drunk. That's what kind of person would work that hard to find that much gold. And I wanted to know what it would take if you were a good man. And that's what it'd take. If you were a good man and you didn't want to do no harm and you were just curious if there was gold and you didn't mean nothing by it, you'd spend your whole life with that mule and nothing else to do but walk and talk to that mule, try to find some food. And if you run into anybody, it was good company and you'd talk, but only until you was able to go on. Yeah, boys, I guess I'll be living here for the rest of my life. I don't know how much longer that'll be. I'm tired. I do know that mule will outlive me. And one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pay somebody whatever it takes to promise me to take care of that mule for life. Yeah. Jedadiah J. about as tired as he's ever going to be. And he's happy as he's ever going to get. And I might die today. That's what it takes. That's how bad evil is, boys. If you're ever going to do evil, think about it long and hard. Oh, I don't want nothing to drink. I don't want nothing to do with whiskey. I'll take a cup of coffee. Just a cup of coffee, boys, and we can talk all you want. Talk all you want. When I'm tired, I'm going home with my mule. You may not understand, but that's the best I can explain it. I rode 850 miles to Missouri on an Arabian. I traded it for that little mule, and I walked 850 miles back. That's how much it means to me. That's what evil is, boys. Evil is that bad. If you don't ever know nothing else, if you tell the legend that there's a Jedadiah J. Stone who lived and died, you tell him the most important thing was to know what it would be like to live in a world if there was no evil. And that's what it takes. That's how hard you got to live to find a world where there's no evil. I'm happy because I've done the work. I know what it's like to be a holy man. I'm old, I'm ready to die. But I'm finally at peace with evil. Anybody that's willing to work that hard to be evil ain't going to get much done. He ain't going to do nothing but drink himself to death. He's going to work all of his life to drink himself to death. And that's all an evil man ever amounts to. Somebody who wants enough money to just live long enough to drink himself to death. And a good man works all of his life just to find one thing out and see if it's true. And that's what I done. Can you live in a world where there's no evil? If you're willing to work that hard and stay that innocent. And I am, boys. I am, boys. I can say that I never done evil. But I had to prove it to myself by working that hard. Yeah, I need that cup of coffee. I'll drink as many cups as you got. And I'll just keep talking until I'm tired and go home, boys. I don't know what I'll talk about the next time you see me. Next time, when I get that mule to my home and she's okay, I don't know how long I'm going to have to sleep before you see me again. But when you do see me again, I'll have that mule and I'll be happy. That's what it takes for a good man to be happy in this world. And I'm a good man and I'm going to die happy, and that's all there is to it.